athletes just get tired of it. They want to cope. How do you cope with always being under pressure of having to win and having to get better and better and better and always improving and always moving the line? That's a lot of pressure. It's doable.
Yeah. Holly Edsall. This is the FCA Hoco Podcast. This is episode number 1 with Holly Edsall, founder, CEO, coach of Excel Sports. Welcome to the FCA Hoco Podcast.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. We're excited to hear about everything that you're doing with your business. But the first thing we like to do is just, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, all that stuff.
Absolutely. I'm Holly Edsall. I'm from Howard County, born and raised.
Rock and roll. All right.
Let's go, Howard County.
Let's go.
And I grew up in about 3rd grade. I started playing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I asked my mom, I remember the day still and where we were at in our house. I was like, I want to sign up for soccer. She's like, are you sure? I was like, yes. And I fell in love with it. Did that for about 10 or 12 years. I actually also did musical theater, but we don't talk about that.
Okay. That's all right. All right. There's some theatrical. That's good. That's good.
It helps with the sports, I guess.
Excellent. Yes, it does.
And then went on to do a 2-year ministry school at Cromwell Christian School of Ministry in Baltimore.
Cool. Awesome.
And then I did 2 years at Towson, and now I am a youth leader.
And you're a youth leader for your church?
Yes.
And your church is called?
Rock City Church.
Rock City Church. Okay. You started a company.
Yes, I did.
You started a company called Excel Sports.
Absolutely.
We want to hear more about Excel Sports. Tell us about Excel Sports.
So Excel Sports is really a different sports company because, I've had personal trainers too when I played soccer and wanted to get better. And a lot of it is just continuing in the skill set training and kind of moves and things like that. But with my business, we hit the areas that coaches don't have the time to coach. So whether that's strengthening intrinsic muscles, which is the deeper muscles in the athlete's body,
Sure.
or mental, which so many coaches talk about, that's important, but they don't actually train, or whether it's character. So we work on building those things in the athlete to really make them a great athlete.
And those are the things that you're trying to build well-rounded athletes.
Yes.
Got it. Not just kind of, I'm good in this area, but I have difficulty in this area.
Right.
I'm good in the, yeah.
And not just skill set, because a lot of times you ask athletes, well, what do you need to work on? And it's all still skill set they're looking at. They don't look at the other areas that they miss.
Absolutely. So is this something that kind of came from your own athletic journey? Like, where did you figure out that you wanted to go into athletic coaching and then pursue it in this manner? Like, I want to work with athletes fully. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not just skills. Everybody
Right.
everybody can do skills, but
Right.
you're wanting to do more. So
Exactly. Yeah. So again, I played sports for 16 years, and in that I've just learned so much. And I learned, a lot of it is just your character and how you carry yourself. And I love this saying that says, hard work beats talent when talent won't work hard. That's like one of my favorite. And then another one says that character will take you to the places where talent can't keep you.
That's a good one.
And it's like, there's a certain threshold that your talent can take you, but if you don't develop your inner man and who you are as a person, you'll fall away. And so just taking a break from sports and then coming back into sports, I realized that through mental development and psychological development, I was really able to do better than I ever could if I just trained my skill set.
Okay. You talked about it a little bit. So you're talking a little bit about your athletic journey. You said you took a break and then came back. Tell us about your athletic journey.
Yeah, so again, I played soccer 3rd grade and then did that all the way up to my senior year in high school. I started track and field as my second sport in high school, sophomore year, and went to states the first year that I did it, and then every year continued to go. And then qualified nationally and went to Junior Olympics in 2016. And it was a journey. But my senior year of high school, I injured my ankle very, very badly.
Okay.
And it was our county game. And we won it, but my ankle ended up toppling over itself. And at that moment, I knew it was so bad. And my track season was right on the heels of the end of soccer season, and I had to sit out track season. And then winter came for track, and my first race back, I landed right on the railing in the PG complex, if you ever seen it.
Sure. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
I stepped right on that dang railing and my ankle toppled over itself.
Oh, man.
And at that point, I was like, my scholarships are done.
Sure.
And I had just gotten saved a year before.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, Lord, like, you've spoken to me before, you know. I don't really know you that well, but I trust you. So whatever you have for me, like, just show me. And
the journey. Now you are on the journey. Yeah,
I know, and it's just been crazier ever since.
Yeah,
so it hasn't slowed down at all. But he led me to Rock City Church in Baltimore, Maryland, and I did a 2-year ministry school. And in that time, that's really kind of out of what I made my business out of, because I didn't train physically at all. And for those 2 years, I worked on some issues that I needed to get rooted out of my life.
For the 2 years while you were there, you didn't do any...
I didn't train. Zero training.
Got it.
But my
physical training.
Physical training.
Right.
I was just trying to say,
Okay.
but my mental,
Sure.
my psychological,
Yeah.
my spiritual, emotional, all of those things really got worked out because the teachers and the people who came in, they really took time to just help root out those healing or the wounds and hurts that I had and bring healing. And because of that, I walked onto Towson University when I graduated that school. And I just called the coach up one day and I was like, hey, like, I want to do sports again. And he's like, okay, like, where'd you go for the past 2 years? I was like, ministry school.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I was working on myself.
I was working on myself. That's right. But it's funny because he ended up being a pastor's kid.
Boom. Look at
Boom.
God.
I
Look at
know.
God.
So we had so much fun together.
Cool.
But yeah, I told him and I walked on, and I had about 4 months or 5 months to train before it was training with the team.
Okay.
And I was
So
like,
this is training on your own.
Yes,
4 or
training
5
on my
months
time.
leading up to
Yes.
when you'll get out there on the track with the rest of the girls.
exactly.
Got it. Okay.
And I was like, okay, Jesus, like, I got a lot of catching up to do.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was honestly because of the mental training and all of that stuff that I got during those 2 years that I just didn't care about anything else. I was like, it's go time. Like, Lord, the past is behind. Paul said, I forget what lies behind and press on.
Amen.
And that's what I did. Everything, I held on to it, you know, the good teachings, but I didn't stay there. I was like, it's time to go to the next level. It's time to move on.
Yeah.
And because of that, I quickly excelled, which is where you get Excel Sports.
I see.
And another 3 months of training with the girls, I was beating their fastest girls.
Okay.
So,
And so that's a testament to the development of you, not just your skill set, but your mindset, spiritual strength, emotional strength, psychologically.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a huge testament to athletes that would say, my skill set is the only thing that matters. Like, what do I need to work on? What do I need to work on my mental toughness for? What do I need to work on my emotional resilience? I don't need to work on that stuff. And it's like, well, until you roll your ankle
Yeah.
twice and then you're sidelined. I've heard that, you probably heard it too. Sometimes it's actually better to break your ankle than roll it really bad
exactly.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a high likelihood that it will continue to happen. That's tough. Okay, so a little bit of your athletic journey, which is more than just an athletic journey,
Right.
which is awesome. So you started Excel Sports, and now you have a particular style of program. Can you tell us like a little bit about your program and how your program works?
Yeah, so Excel Sports, we do training online. We do it over Zoom, and basically I have...
Wait a minute, so I don't have to run?
No, I mean, if you want to run on your own, you can, but I'm not going to really make you run.
Okay.
But it's online, and I chose that because it's just easier for the both of us. If
Sure.
the athlete, the family, the parent, and myself to train that way. You know, high schoolers, they already are going through the school and their after school training and then homework and schoolwork and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so eliminating that is just smarter on the athlete's body too. But Excel, we work on, like I said, your mental, your psychological. We'll do other stuff if there's weak areas in your body to also prep you for college and stuff like that. But I'll give you the program layout, and then we'll have an initial call and we'll go through your trouble issues. But as we're talking week to week to week, we're working on and targeting negative thinking, negative thought cycles. What are those moments that those thoughts are popping up and why? Okay, you're an athlete, but what's affecting you off the field that's going to cause you to be derailed? Because that happens.
Yes, it does.
And so we go through that, and then, we'll touch base if we need to readjust. We can readjust. If we need to keep going in that direction, we keep going. But there's an outline of the program, and then, when it gets down to the individual athlete, it kind of can be moved and adjusted.
Sure. Yeah, that's a side of athletics that's not touched on at all. At all. Only at very, very high levels. Professional levels. That's the only place that I've heard that people are actually working on the mental side, like the mental, spiritual side of the game. So how would you say that your program benefits athletes involved? You talked a little bit about it with the mental side of the game, and you and I both see it more at a professional level, but talk more about how you know that your program benefits your athletes.
Yeah, well, being a Division I athlete, I've seen several of my teammates, that just weren't able to keep up with the training because they had things going on in their outside life.
Of course, athletes got stuff going on off the court, field all the time. Yeah.
Whether it was the partying or the depression or the boyfriends. I mean, I've had teammates where they would confide in me and their boyfriend was beating them up. And of course, I mean, I saw in that time that they were going through that third training was terrible. They were not hitting their times. And they're like, well, I guess it was because of what I'm going through. I'm like, no, it's literally because of what you're going through.
Yeah.
And just seeing that side, when you're in high school, you're with your parents, you're protected and all that stuff. When you get to college, you're on your own.
Yeah.
You make your decisions now, more so at a higher level. And I've just seen people not make good decisions. When you get to Division I sports, there's a lot of freedom, but there's a lot of freedom that can be bad and that cannot benefit the athletes. So if we can get them in high school and kind of shape them and mold them there and say, hey, this is what happens, like be prepared and we're going to prepare you, their athlete, their kid is going to be so much better.
What you're talking about is the difference between average athletes and great athletes. And it doesn't even matter the level. So I played Division II baseball, and the issues that you just ran through, just flip them. Like guys are struggling with relationship issues. I was one of them. Like struggled with a breakup, and it's like, my life is over. I can't do anything with baseball anymore. And then I coached when I got out at the Division III level, and I saw those exact same things. So I was living in Kentucky, so there were some specific things that were going on in Kentucky. Horse racing was a big deal, so gambling was a big deal. So we got to talk to guys about, buddy, don't go to the racetrack when you get off the field in fall ball. I know you want to. We need to talk about that.
Wow.
Or drinking, and so everything that you're saying is right. But then the manifestation of that was, why do you keep making errors? Why are you not making contact, with your swing? What's going on? Something's going on, and something's going on. So what you're talking about is 100%. 100%. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about how your program works. I can think of so many instances where the mental, the spiritual, the psychological side of the game is neglected. Are there any more times that you can think of, examples that you can give where you've seen it, people kind of fall apart or not fall apart or do well, or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm reminded of, even recently, a couple NFL athletes. One specifically, he was on the Ravens Baltimore team, and he just got arrested.
The Baltimore Ravens.
Baltimore, yeah. Ravens. He just got arrested because he was drunk driving and speeding and hit this woman, and it's like, that's bad character. That had nothing to do with his playing at all. And is he playing now? No, he's not. He's in jail. And it's like, that can be your kid, that can be your athlete, because when you take someone and you present them with all this money and all that it has to offer and all this world, and there's women and there's booze and there's partying and there's so much available, it's like, and they have faulty character, well, they're not going to be able to withstand those things at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there's athletes who, have made millions, and then after their careers, they're broke.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you go making millions and then end up broke? It's because nobody taught them and trained them in those areas because it's neglected. But they were a great player,
100%.
by all means.
Oh, yes.
They could tackle, they could catch, they could run.
Sure.
But as a person, they sucked.
Right. Financial management, not a part of the
Horrible.
conversation. Absolutely. Banking, not a part of the conversation. Figuring out the right people to run with, the circle that you build, like not taught. Because it doesn't have to do with the ball or running or cleats you're absolutely right. You're talking character. Let's talk more about character and like the development aspect. So with FCA, huge aspect of what we do is developing character, helping athletes develop Christian character specifically. Let's talk kind of character. You gave some great examples there. I mean, there's plenty more that I can think of. I had breakfast with a couple of some guys that I do a Bible study with this morning. An example was given of, and I can't remember the athlete's name. This is while Nick Saban was at Alabama. Nick Saban had an athlete that was going to be a first round draft pick in the NFL draft. He was on campus one night and walking past a frat house. The frat house was having a party and they yelled names at this athlete. This athlete played football at Alabama. Why you would yell stuff at somebody that has the ability to play football at Alabama, I have no idea. This can't be some average person. Anyway, so they're yelling stuff at this guy. The police get called. The police go and get the athlete. The police, while they're there, they call Coach Saban. Coach Saban goes to the athlete and he said, I can't remember the story exactly, but he said, I knew in that moment that I had to relate to this young man differently. So he explained it and he said, if you assault this guy in this frat house, if you assault this person, you will go to jail and have an assault charge on your record. That assault charge will cost you $3 million in the draft. If you don't spend time in jail. If you let it slide, you're sure to go number one in the draft, and your signing bonus will be something like $3 to $5 million. Wow. So he just kind of tied those two together. Not necessarily the character portion, but the implications of this decision that you're about to make is not just like football, bro. It's like you can make this decision here, but it's going to affect your money later. It's going to affect
your whole life.
Your whole life.
Will be changed by that one decision that you make.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of athletes will fall, whether even if it's at the Division I level too. Sometimes they have potential to make it beyond, but they get caught up. And it's just really hard to see, because it's like, if you just thought differently and if your character was different, like you would make it so far. But a lot of times, again, because we're not training athletes in that, and coaches will say all the time, character is so important, mental is so important, right? Like even on Towson weight room, they have this sign that says, mentality is everything. And I got sick of it one day, and I went up to my strength coach and I was like, I have a question for you. And he's like, yes. I said, you guys have a sign that says mentality is everything, right? And he's like, yeah, it's so important, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's so important.
It got me mentally
100%.
tough,
That's
all
right.
of that. I said, so why do we play music in here that talks about sex and murder and raping and drugs and suicide? His jaw dropped. Like, he was speechless.
Check.
And I was like, checkmate.
Yeah.
Like, that's it right there. And that's part of the reason why I developed it too, because I'm like, that's an issue. And his response to me was, well, I just play it because you guys like it. And I was like, aren't you the coach?
Oh.
I was like, we like doing a whole bunch of other stupid stuff too.
Yeah.
But see, at that level, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, even with coaches covering stuff up that they shouldn't. And, and all of that can be prevented if we actually start training athletes, not just about the fame and the fortune and all you can do and, oh, go be great. Why don't you be great in your character and make a way that way?
Coaching around character.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. One of the other questions that I had was, just kind of, do you think high school training is enough?
No, it really, any training honestly isn't enough. And you said it, professional level, yes. Like one of my friends, she's an Olympian, and we were just talking the other day, and she has this psychological trainer who helps her in that way. But
really,
yeah, but she's a track runner #1, and that's an entirely different sport because it's very individual.
Okay.
You're not on a team like NFL.
Sure.
Or NBA. Like if you're going to be a professional track runner, it's like you have one coach in you, honestly. Like you don't really train with other athletes a lot of the times. So that was a little different. But again, that's even rare at the professional level. And so how much more high school? I mean, coaches have maybe 2 hours after school. The kids still have to go home and do homework and have friends and have that time and downtime and all that. And you really don't get a lot of time to touch the athletes. And then, in high school too, they let kind of anybody on because some people are just trying it, so teams can be bigger. So you just multiply that to the nth degree, and now all these athletes are kind of passing through without touching all the areas that it needs, You get, again, skill training and endurance and things like that. But then where's the training for injury prevention? And where's the training, for psychological and mental, emotional? I mean, the things that high school athletes are doing, or just high schoolers in general today, is like it would boggle people's minds, you know? So your friend that's the Olympic track runner that's doing Olympic level track runner, maybe she's running in the Olympics. I have no idea. She just retired.
Okay.
But yeah, she's been in the Olympics. Yeah.
The mental coach, talk about that. Like that is, I'm curious, like what kind of training is she getting there? What does that look like?
Yeah. So,
for people that have no idea, because there's some people that are like, I don't even understand, like mental training.
I mean, it's literally breaking down the athlete's thoughts, and she posted on Instagram a while ago. And she had this thing on the fridge, and it was like, even if you don't win, like, you're still loved.
Sure.
And she talked about that, what she wrote on her fridge. And she's like...
Say that again?
She talked about what she wrote on her fridge, that even if you don't win, you're still loved. And she said that, that was hard for me to understand. Because athletes, again, it's very performance-based.
100.
You earn based off of your performance. And that aspect alone is enough stress to make someone topple. And that's also part of the reason, because athletes just get tired of it. They want to cope. How do you cope with always being under pressure of having to win and having to get better and better and better and always improving and always moving the line? That's a lot of pressure. It's doable. Yeah. But again, if you're only training that physical side, not the mental side, it's scary and it's hard. Yeah. And so for her, she basically would just sit down with one of her psychologists and break down her thoughts and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is when it happens, this is why it happens. And then the psychologist would say, okay, but here's the truth and here's what the reality is. Wow. Because the perspective of someone who's non-sports versus a high-performing athlete who has Olympics and gold medals and everything riding, their state, their country, their nation, riding on them performing well, that's a lot of pressure.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. You're right. And as you were saying that, I was like, their name is also riding on that. You can't walk away from your name. Like, that's also on the line. We can probably, people out there that are listening to this, seeing it, are probably thinking of athletes where they were like, man, he had such potential, and then we watched this train wreck just happen.
Ricky and Keel. I remember you sent me that, and I watched the whole thing and was amazed. I was like, wow, this is exactly what I'm trying to prevent. Yeah,
Rick Ankiel.
Yeah.
Yeah, who talked about... So Rick Ankiel, funny, he worked with a trainer named Harvey Dorfman, H.A. Dorfman. Okay. So H.A. Dorfman put out a ton of books that just has to talk about the mental side of the game. One of the games that he put out is called The Mental Side of Baseball. And so I've read a ton of those books, and I would highly recommend anybody that's listening to this podcast for the first time, look what he's saying and what you're saying, because they are exactly the same thing. Wow. Russell Wilson worked with a coach who was also with Nick Saban at Alabama, and his name was Trevor Moab. Trevor passed away recently, but it all had to do with mindset and thought process. I think the book is called Neutral Thinking. But he talked about a lot of the same things. So yeah, you're definitely onto something.
That's
and again, it's only like, it seems like the elite and like professionals that are talking about this.
Well, even at Nike, about a year or two ago, there's this girl named Mary something. I think her name begins with an M. But she came out about the pressures that Nike was putting on her to lose weight and all this stuff. I mean, she's a runner. She was already
Okay, yeah, right.
and a cross-country runner at that.
Gee whiz.
And putting all this pressure on her to kind of lose all this weight. And then the training she got was more for a man's body rather than a woman's body, which is another big difference. And she came out about how she was almost suicidal with how bad it was there.
Yep.
And she left Nike now, but it just exposed that when you're only trying to train a person's body and you don't understand that literally their character can take them so much farther than their talent, that's when you get that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, you said Nike, and I immediately thought about, his name slips my mind, but he broke the cross-country, is it the marathon record? I believe he broke the marathon record.
Is it Elliot Kipchoge?
Yes.
Yeah.
He broke the marathon record. And I'm thinking, just think about trying to break the marathon record. And people are like, well, you know, some people can say it's physical. It's physical. It's physical for the first couple miles.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But when you're running, I mean, he's running sub 4:30 mile for 26 miles. Can you imagine? I can't even run 1 mile at 4:30.
I mean.
And he's running that 26 times.
26 times.
That's not just physical at that point.
No, and the development and the what's he leaning on in those moments.
Exactly. It's not just the physical. And there's this guy, David Goggins. He's great. I love him. He's Navy SEAL, Green Beret, all these things. And he talks about how he was 200 pounds and literally a loser.
Sure.
And he looked in the mirror, he's like, this is my fault.
Yeah.
And he changed. Now he's one of the baddest people on this earth.
Yeah.
And he talks about all the time, mental. I mean, you take a guy who's in that such physical stature, it's because the mental got him to that point.
Got him to 200 pounds, 200 plus.
Yes,
Sure.
But then on the other side, then the mental also got him to the successful place.
Correct.
And if you always let your character guide you and you work on that and you have that change first, it's always a character change first and then it's a development of the physical, and people think it's the opposite and it's not.
That's good. I think we're knocking on it. Let's talk a little bit about what Excel believes in as a company. Like, what do you believe in? You launched this, founder. What does Excel believe in as a company?
Yeah, we believe in developing athletes to their full potential through developing their character and their mind, and of course working on injury prevention and all those other areas. Again, there's just not every area that a coach can touch to develop a great athlete, and we believe in touching those areas that the coaches don't get to.
Absolutely. Let's see. So do you work, is it more with teams or is it more with individuals? And like, what does it look like to work with a team versus an individual? Are there benefits for like working just as a team, or are there just benefits working as an individual?
Yeah, so I do both. I'm mostly doing individuals right now.
Okay.
But I'm also working with some people to start working with their teams.
Cool.
For individuals, it's strictly online. And that's more intimate. You get more of me, you get more of what I have to offer that way. Mm-hmm. And then with teams, I will do in person. I also do online for that. Yeah. But just depending on the situation, sometimes I might want to go fly out and see them and be with them in person. But for teams, the benefit for that is instead of just developing one leader with the individual, I'm now developing a whole team of leaders. Sure. And so the whole team dynamic shifts together rather than just one person shifting. So just depending on what the coach and the athlete and the parents want.
Is there, I can think of like, we're talking individual sports, and so you're thinking individual track, wrestling, figure skating.
More so individual, like, it doesn't matter, like if you have a soccer team, but I reach out to a girl and get connected and she wants to train with me, then more so that level, not necessarily like individual sports, but just an individual person.
Got it. Yeah. This is powerful. This is powerful. It might take some time for people to catch on, but it's powerful what you're doing. Couple others. Is there any advice that you would give to athletes that are looking to go and play in college? Like,
sign up for my program.
Sign up.
Dotted line.
Best advice you got. Best advice right there. Yeah.
My advice to them would be that, but also just keep your head on straight. Priorities, what is more important to you? Is being a good athlete and a well-developed person better for you, or is the partying and drinking better for you?
Sure.
You can find other friends. I know athletes and am still friends with some that didn't do the partying and they love Jesus and go to FCA in college and
Sure.
stuff like that. So there's people out there. It's just, what are your priorities? What's your focus? What are you spending your spare time doing is really key. You get downtime and it's good to rest and not try and figure out and plan and program and get better. It's good to relax, but in that relaxing, what's pacifying you? Is it social media, Instagram, alcohol, sex? What is it? Or
Sure.
is it, are you reading? Are you just taking leisurely walks? What are you doing? So focus and priorities.
Focus your priorities. Focus your priorities or focus and priorities?
I like the way you said it. Focus your priorities.
Focus your priorities. I think that's great. I think that's probably where where the most issues come in is there's not a ton of focus. I took a walk this morning here in Columbia, and that was kind of my prayer time and and that was what I kept continuing hearing is focus, focus.
It's
focus.
so hard. There's a study that says people can focus their attention for about 6 seconds, that our attention span is down to 6 seconds now. And a lot of it is because social media and all that stuff. Again, social media is not bad, but if it's pacifying you and doing those things,
Sure.
your focus it's going to be shot.
Yeah.
And I touch on that too, actually, because there's actually this syndrome called Milkshake Brain.
Milkshake Brain. So, I'm listening. It's Milkshake Brain.
Yeah, so Milkshake Brain is literally that. It's your thoughts. They're all jumbled up, and it's because we, and the way God designed us, is to be deep, intrinsic thinkers. And God told Joshua, he said, if you meditate on my law, which means think deeply, mull over, chew on my law day and night, then your ways will be successful. But today, people don't know how to meditate or think deeply because they're scrolling. Okay, 30-second video, clip, gun, dun, short stuff.
Yeah.
And or it's texting and it's down. There's not long conversations and things like that there used to be anymore. And that creates your brain, instead of forming a long meditative thought where you're chewing and thinking on it from different angles, now it's just one thought, and
Sure.
it becomes like a milkshake inside your brain. And that's where anxiety comes from. That's actually the root of anxiety, is because you're not thinking clearly. Your thoughts aren't strong. So basically, when you're thinking, the neurons or nerve cells in your brain, they connect and they form connections over the synapses. And the more you think on a thought, the stronger that one gets, which is where you get strongholds from, and which is where I hit. It's both spiritual but also natural as well.
Okay.
In my program. And when you think on those thoughts become stronger and stronger and stronger the more you think on it, which again is why you have a stronghold. But the Word of God says to think on the things that are pure, lovely, noble, praiseworthy.
Yeah.
And so as you begin to replace that thought with a good thought, with a God thought, now this negative one is dying and the connection's getting weaker and weaker, and now you have a better thought forming.
Yeah.
But when you're on social media or you're thinking so many things at once, there's just a bunch of weak thoughts.
Sure.
And now they're trying to form, and it's called a milkshake brain.
Okay. That is deep. That's deep. And to someone that is on social media, for work, I think some people are like, well, I have to be on social for work. However, what you're saying and having being able to have a deep thought and meditate on it and chew on it. And I love that you use the word meditate. I think so many people are like, no, meditation. I don't meditate on anything.
The Lord told Joshua, meditate,
Right.
and then you'll be successful. Because God knew as your thoughts change And that's how you conform to the Word of God and conform to His ways when you meditate and think on it. Now those thoughts are your character and who you are. And that's where all your actions come from. So if we can get to the root of that in athletes and in people in general,
Sure.
we'll develop people that are amazing.
Meditate on the Word day and night. Yes. Yes. I don't know where we're at, but if coaches, athletes, parents, if they wanted to get in touch with you, or they've got some questions, is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, so I have social media. It's Holly, Holly.
But you're not on it like everybody else.
No. No, I monitor what I do.
Okay.
It's Holly, Holly, and then .trains, TRAINS. I also have flyers. My phone number's on the flyers and things like that, so they can reach out that way.
Do you do, like a 30, like, do you do consultations? So say my 13-year-old, we are like, we need to call Holly right now. Do you do consultations? Is that?
Yeah, so we'll have like an initial 15-minute call to see if they're a good fit, if that's what they're looking for. Because again, if you're just looking for skill set training, I'm not doing that. You can get that on the
Anywhere.
field, anywhere.
Right.
I'm doing something that's much more beneficial for your athlete. And so I do about 15, 20-minute phone calls as the initial, just to get to know the athlete and the family, what they're looking for, what are their dreams, goals, and visions, and then we'll have a follow-up and then get them started in the program.
That sounds like a win. That sounds like such
It is a win.
Have you, are you, I guess, like, how are you doing with this? Like, what's it like to be a founder and launch a company? What's it like to be somebody that's like, I've got this goal, I've got this dream, and it's more than a dream, it's something that I can see being beneficial to the greater public. Like,
Yeah.
What's that like?
I think I'm very visionary and I see the long term, and I heard this saying where you start with the end in mind at the beginning, just like God, He sees the end to the beginning. And so I see all that it can do and be as a national and world-renowned program. And so I start here, and I was just reading before I came here out of Proverbs all about diligence in building things. And it says that the diligent will rule. And then there's another scripture I found and made me laugh so hard because I never read it. It said, the lazy man will catch his hunt but won't roast it.
That's lazy.
That is late. I mean, you catch it, but you don't roast it. Like, that's bad. And it's like, I had these dreams and visions, and it's like I could catch that, but if I don't actually do the work to get there, and just listening to people like Auntie Anne's Pretzels. The founder's a Christian. She loves the Lord, and the reason she started Auntie Anne's is because of the Lord. And hearing all these people, I mean, it's a probably $1 billion corporation at this point. There's just nothing that's impossible.
Yeah.
There's nothing, no bounds, no limits with God. King Solomon, King David, all these people were great rulers in the natural, but they loved the Lord.
Amen. You touched on it a little bit earlier, and I think this is good. This would be a great place. Tell us your story. Like, can you tell us a little bit about when you found the Lord, what that was like?
Yeah,
When?
So it was 2016.
Okay.
My junior year going into my senior year. And I actually met the Lord in my bedroom, which is so funny because one person was like, who led you to the Lord? I was like, what? Like, what is that? What? Because I didn't understand at the time. I was like, Jesus led me to himself?
Jesus led me to himself. What?
Like, no, come on.
Silly pants.
And I met the Lord in my bedroom, and I remember hearing His audible voice. And it was like as if you were speaking like right there. And He said, you are forgiven. And at that moment, I felt the peace of God literally flood my soul, where it talks about peace that surpasses all understanding. Like, I was not in distress. I was not depressed. I was not anxious or worried. And the next moment, I felt a wave of God's love just come in, and like my room got brighter, and not because lights turned on, but literally because the Lord was in my room. And I felt His love that was so indescribable. And it's like, even in sports and all this stuff and the accomplishments, what we're really looking for is to be so deeply loved that only God can love us like. And in that moment, I found that and never turned back.
Rock and roll. That's so good. To those that don't know the Lord, that would be an invitation to
Receive Him.
Exactly. And perhaps God is speaking to you. And you and I both know as athletes that even on the athletic field, you're not far away from him.
No, he speaks to me on the field. I mean, there's been times where in soccer games after I got saved, I would literally hear the Holy Spirit tell me to run to a certain place because a girl's about to pass the ball. And when I obeyed, it happened. And I remember my coaches sometimes would be like, how do you do that? I mean, like, it freaked them out. Like, they were literally like, how are you doing this? But look at the stories of David, where the Lord told him where to hide and where to run to and what to do. I mean, God is in the details of everything. I'm sure there's sports in heaven. Like, if
There has to be. He made us athletes. There has to be. Otherwise, what am I doing? What are we going to do?
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to get my youth back, but I can't play ball. What is that?
What? No.
That makes no sense. This has been great. Holly Edsall, founder, CEO of Excel Sports. We are extremely grateful and thankful that you decided to come on the Hoco FCA podcast. You're our first guest.
I love it.
This will be an amazing video to look back on in years to come. For anybody that's looking to get connected to you, the links will be in the description box below. Holly Edsall, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We're praying for you, and we look forward to having you on again in the future.
Amen. Thank you.
You're welcome.